Have you ever walked past one of those old, you know, abandoned buildings, boarded up windows, weeds everywhere, and you're just like, what's the deal with that place? Is it just going to sit there forever?
Oh, yeah, it's a really common sight in cities, isn't it? And often a real drag on the neighborhood.
Totally. And today we're actually doing a deep dive into a really specific and kind of innovative answer to that coming out of Puerto Rico. Our mission is basically to unpack this unique regulation. It's all about tackling urban blight in San Juan through a public-private partnership. Think of this as your shortcut to getting what it's all about. Okay, so let's unpack this. This regulation, it started back in October 2019, right? What exactly does it mean by an estorbo público, a public nuisance?
Right. So estorbo público, the definition here is pretty key. It's not just any building that looks a bit rough. It has to be abandoned or really deteriorated, maybe a vacant lot, basically unusable as it is. And critically, it's got to be harmful to health or safety, or, and this is crucial, it has to be actively hindering the area's development.
Ah, okay. So tangible problems, like you mentioned fire risks.
Exactly. Fire risks, maybe it's been vandalized, lacks proper ventilation, sanitation, no utilities hooked up, or even just piles of trash building up, stuff like that.
Gotcha. So it has to be a real demonstrable problem for the community, not just an eyesore. And you said this is specific to certain areas, not the whole island.
That's right. Very specific. It focuses on designated intervention areas, mostly within San Juan. We're talking part of Santurce, like Puerto de Tierra, Rio Piedras places like Centro Urbano, Capetillo, Buen Consejo. Also areas like Cambado, Miramar, Punta Las Marias, and Ocean Park are included.
Okay. Now, what really jumped out at me is how this whole process gets started. It's not just the government pointing fingers, is it?
No, and that's where it gets really interesting. The whole thing is actually initiated by a proponente. This is basically an interested private person or company. They're the ones who kick things off. They go to the administration, appraisals in hand, and essentially say, look, I think this property is a public nuisance and I want to buy it and fix it up.
Wow. Okay. So a private citizen or entity really drives this. What's their commitment level, financially speaking?
Oh, it's significant. First, the proponente has to prove they have legal standing and the economic means to actually do the redevelopment. There are rules, too, like government employees generally can't be proponents unless they get a specific waiver. But the big thing, they sign a contract promising to cover all the costs, everything involved in declaring it a nuisance and acquiring it. And they have to put down a deposit right away, 10% of the property's appraised value, held in escrow.
10% upfront. That's serious intent.
Yeah.
Okay, so the proponente steps up. What happens next for the current property owner? Is there an administrative process?
Yes, absolutely. Once that contract with the proponente is signed, the administration officially notifies the current property owner and anyone else with a registered interest. They let them know the intent is to declare the property a nuisance. The owner then gets a window, usually about 20 days, to ask for administrative hearing.
A hearing to state their case.
Exactly. They can argue against the nuisance declaration. After that, the property gets categorized. It could be not a public nuisance, or maybe it is a nuisance, but it's fixable, susceptible to repair. In that case, the owner gets a chance, maybe 3 to 6 months, to fix the problems.
And if they don't? Or if it's deemed a nuisance right off the bat?
Then it's officially declared an estorbo público. Or, if they fail to make repairs in time, same outcome. At that point, the administration moves to acquire the property. This often happens through expropiación forzosa, forced expropriation.
Forced expropriation. And where does the proponente, the initial private party, fit back in here?
Right here. They now become the adquirente potential, the potential acquirer, basically the designated buyer. They are now responsible for fronting the money for the property's just compensation to the original owner, plus all those acquisition costs we mentioned. The property is then transferred to them, but as is.
As is. So all the problems are now theirs to solve.
Precisely. The adquirente potential is then legally obligated to carry out the improvements they proposed initially, the ones needed to get rid of that nuisance condition.
Okay, but what if? What if they get the property and then just don't fix it up? If they default?
Good question. If the adquirente potential defaults after acquiring the property, the administration has recourse. They can actually retain the title to the property and keep the funds that were provided. Then they can sell it to someone else to try and recover the costs and ensure the property still gets fixed.
So there are safeguards built in.
Definitely. And, if we step back and look at the bigger picture, This whole mechanism, it's really designed for urban reconstruction. It tackles blight directly, improves quality of life, and crucially, it stimulates the local economy by getting these abandoned properties back into use.
It really is a fascinating approach. A very structured way to use private initiative to solve a public problem, ensuring these derelict properties don't just languish.
Exactly. It's quite a creative policy tool. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? It raises this important question for you, the listener. Could a model like this, maybe adapted, work elsewhere? In other cities facing similar decay, what could that look like in your own community? Something to think about.